Hi everyone, I'm Adam Brady, Chopra educator and certified meditation, yoga, and mind-body wellness instructor. Welcome back to 15-Minute Mindfulness. This is lesson 15, an introduction to mindful movement. So our body is an amazing tool to help cultivate that mindfulness that we've been talking about. So far, we've been exploring mindfulness through meditation, through breathing, and now we're going to look at how we can move our body mindfully. And that's a really powerful thing to do because if you think of it, most of the time we're not really having an in-body experience, as strange as that might sound, because we're inhabiting our body all day long, but how often are we really truly present and feeling it and moving through it? So we have this great tool to cultivate mindfulness in how we move, how we position ourselves, how we breathe while we're moving. All of these things help to be a very powerful anchor to bring us back to the present moment. And we've talked about the benefits of being present and how it lowers our stress and helps us feel more relaxed and grounded and so on. But just being able to move your body consciously and awarely is a real profound gift to notice how your body is feeling in each and every moment. And cultivating that through movement allows you to carry that over into your regular daily activities. So you can just become more and more mindful as your days go on through practices such as this. So why would we want to do this? Well, when you think about it, our bodies are designed to move. Now, most of us, we get into this more or less sedentary lifestyle that we have in our culture today where we really only go through about 4 specific movements: standing, sitting, lying, or walking. Really boils down to the 4 things that we're doing throughout the course of the day. And sometimes we don't even do that many. Sometimes we're just really sedentary and we're hardly moving at all. But when you think about it, our primitive ancestors, our bodies evolved because of the need to move. Whether we were running or climbing or jumping or squatting or crawling, all of these primal movements are built into our body. And your body wants to do that, not just because it's natural to do so, but because it feels good. And these different movements and these almost animalistic types of movements that our body is capable of helps to cultivate awareness, build strength and balance and flexibility, helps to nourish our body, move energy. All these things are really intrinsic to what it means to be human and to move our body. So it becomes this very powerful tool that we can cultivate and really feel our body and notice it and understand what it's doing at all times. And this helps to build that mind-body integration that we've been talking about all along. And it's this feedback loop of your mind sending signals to your body then sending signals back to your mind, and there's this back and forth communication going on. So you're making all these different adjustments and correcting, moving towards comfort, feeling healthier, more energized, and happier through the whole process. So it's this great overall process of reconnecting with our roots and what it means to be human and move your body the way that it's meant to. So how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to use 2 primary methods. The first is yoga asana. So the word asana means seat or posture or steady position. So these are the movements that you see with classical yoga, hatha yoga. And before you get scared off, don't worry, because these are very basic natural movements of our body, and it's not just a stretch. We'll talk more about that in a few moments, but the poses that we do in yoga are designed to cultivate those different positions and twists and reaches of our body's ability to extend and flex forward and backward and do different things. So it's a very powerful tool to help cultivate that mindfulness. The second tool we're going to use is Qi Gong flows. So you may not be familiar with Qi Gong, but Qi Gong is similar to Tai Chi from traditional Chinese medicine, but it's more of a healing art in that it moves your body through breathing, through very flowy types of movement. It's whereas a yoga pose is a little bit more of, I don't want to say static, but it's a slightly more structured position that you might hold for a moment or two, whereas a Qigong movement is more flowy, where there's just more flowing of the arms and the legs, and you're shifting your weight back and forth with the breath. But both of these combined together work very well to help build more mindfulness into your movement and to carry that over into your daily activity. So what we're doing here is really building neurological, physiological, respiratory integration. So that's your mind, your breathing, your body, all these coming together as one. That's what yoga really means. It's the unity of your mind, your body, your breath, your environment coming together to perform in harmony. And that's very, very powerful because most of the time our thoughts run off the past or the future. We're not fully present in our body, as I was saying before. So what are some of the benefits? Why would we want to do this? And what are we going to get out of this? Well, when you think of yoga poses or Qigong movements, they pretty much all cultivate 4 primary attributes that you're going to get out of just about every set of movements that you'll be doing. First is balance, because you're going to be shifting your weight from side to side. You're going to be possibly standing on one foot for a period, or shifting your weight onto maybe 3 of your limbs as opposed to all 4 if you're on the ground. So this cultivates an awareness of your balance and how you adjust for that. And that's inner ear and different hemispheres of your brain talking to each other to correct for balance and build balance as a skill. Secondly, you have flexibility. Flexibility, of course, not just to the muscles, but to joints, ligaments, connective tissue, fascia, all these things in your body that are getting a nice expansion, and then they can become a little bit more elongated, increase the blood flow. So a lot of things happening there. So we have balance, we have flexibility, we also have strength. So as you move through these different positions, you're building strength. You might be moving muscles that you haven't necessarily moved a lot before. So the more you use it, the more it builds up, the more powerful that muscle can be to, of course, build health and strength in other areas and help support your body with whatever else you're doing. And then, of course, it builds coordination. The connective tissue, the neuromuscular programming that starts to happen with regular movements in these poses, it starts to get that feedback loop talking. So just like any movement that you might be new at, you've never done before, the more you do it over time, the more comfortable it becomes. So if you've never maybe done like tree pose in yoga, standing on one foot, that might in the very beginning cause you to wobble a lot. You might feel very unsure of yourself, but the more you do it, the more that builds that coordination. So after a while, that neuromuscular programming starts to set in. It trims off all the unnecessary noise that's going on between your mind and your body, and you just get better at it. And that's what that coordination is. So those 4 attributes, really powerful, always getting those through pretty much every movement that you're doing. But you also have all these other things going on. You know, there's this fear of what people say, oh, I don't like to do static stretching. Because whether that's some expert saying don't do static stretching, or somebody just feels that that's not an appropriate way to move your body, I kind of want to dispel that myth for a moment, because the whole notion when it comes to yoga and Qigong, there really isn't such a thing as static. If you understand the yoga philosophy and you recognize that our bodies aren't just like a fixed thing, they're a field of energy and transformation and intelligence. It's constantly moving, it's constantly shifting and changing. So the idea of just getting into a pose and holding it like a statue, that's not yoga. That's really not the idea here. Anybody can just get into a pose and stretch and hold that. But that's not really yoga, because if you think about it at a deeper level, you're always breathing, your circulation is always moving, your mind is going. So at the deeper level of a yoga pose or these Qigong movements, it's this communication, this dialogue between your mind and body. So as you go into a pose, you might be holding it and breathing. Of course, that's movement on its own. As you expand and your lungs fill up, that causes a shift in the positioning of your body. Organs might get a little bit of a squeeze that didn't have a squeeze before as your abdomen expands or moves back. So all kinds of things happening with the breath flowing, with your circulation, but your attention is moving as well. As you move into a pose, you say, oh, that doesn't feel so good. So you might make a micro or a macro adjustment. You're course correcting all the time in the pose. It's not like you just get into it and you stay there and you're miserable in a pose that doesn't feel good. No, you always want to move toward comfort. You always want to adjust whatever pose or movement you're doing to your own body, your own morphology, your own mind-body constitution, what feels best for you. So it's not about forcing yourself into a yoga pose or into a movement that doesn't feel right. It's about adapting that position to suit you for what feels best for you right now. Remember, always move toward comfort. Only do what feels best for your body. So let's just get away from this whole notion of just a static stretch and you're not moving and you're just holding that, which could potentially, of course, lead to injury, which I think is why a lot of people are opposed to that whole notion of static stretching. But that's not what yoga is. As we move through these poses, you'll see you're continuing to move, adjust, feel what your body's doing, taking that feedback in. Now, if you were to ignore that feedback and just get into a stretch and hold it and just stay there and just just stick with it and just gut it out, that's obviously not what you want to do, because you could injure your body. If you don't listen to the signals of what your body is telling you, if it's saying stop, doesn't feel good, back off, and you don't back off, then that's how you're going to get injured. So always listening to your body, tuning in, noticing what's happening, becoming really, really, really aware. That's what yoga is all about, because ultimately a yoga pose, any of the poses that I'm going to share with you, they're not a noun, they're a verb. So there's all this stuff happening. Whether it looks like we're holding and staying still, we're not really just staying still. We're inhaling, we're exchanging energy and information with the environment, our circulation is flowing, lymph is flowing through our bodies. That's one of the great benefits of yoga poses, because unlike our circulatory system that moves blood with the pumping of our heart as we move in different activities, the lymphatic system, which is a big component of our immune system, it doesn't have a pump. So it relies on bodily movements to help circulate that lymph throughout our body. So that's a great benefit of some of these yoga poses, as we get ourselves into positions and twists and bends and reaches that help activate lymph conduits and channels through our body, more energy flows. Plus the subtle energy is flowing through our mind-body system as well. If you remember, we talked about the 70-some thousand nadis or subtle channels that yoga recognizes in our mind-body system. Traditional Chinese medicine calls these meridians. These channels are needing to be cleared and allowing the energy to flow appropriately through our mind-body system. Yoga poses, Qi Gong movements, they're designed specifically to help liberate that energy and allow it to move. The primal position, some of the positions in many of the yoga poses that we move through, they have animal names. That's because we're mimicking the movements of certain animals, and we're cultivating that energy, and that moves it and allows it to circulate all that subtle activity at a deeper level that we might not even be consciously aware of, but it's going on behind the scenes. That's why at the end of a yoga class you feel either deeply settled and relaxed, or you might have energy that builds up, you might feel energy releasing emotional blockages, or all kinds of things that are taking place in the background of your awareness that you might not normally be aware of, that all come through regular yoga practice and asana movements. So be very aware as you're doing this. You don't want to just get into a pose and just be there and just like, okay, how long do we have to hold this? How many breaths are we moving through? You really want to leverage as much of your awareness into the position of your body, into the breath, into the moment as you possibly can. As I often tell my yoga students when we're going into some of the basic poses that we've done many, many, many times, to have a deeper experience of that yoga pose doesn't mean that you try to reach further or that you try to bend or twist deeper. It means being more present. So bringing more of your awareness into the pose. It's not about reaching further, it's about breathing deeper and being more mindful in that moment as your body takes that pose. And you'll notice as you move through some of these positions that it might call up different feelings, different associations. Some poses, like warrior pose, for example, that cultivates a very powerful, strong feeling that is an archetypal energy that's called up and invoked in these different positions. The same thing with some of the more animal poses, that you feel that almost primal energy flowing through your system by adopting this position. So allow that to happen. Don't fight that. Don't resist that. Just be with that and notice it. Tune into it, and then just continue to come back to your breath. Your breath is going to be your anchor through all of these movements, everything that we're doing. Come back to the breathing. At any point, if your mind starts to wander or you're getting distracted or you feel bored, just come back to the deep breathing. But regardless, for all of these poses, there will only be maybe 3 or 4 poses per lesson that we're going to be doing for the next 6 videos. And I want you to think about these not as a yoga class. It's certainly not a complete yoga class, but these poses can be used whenever you feel the need to move your body more mindfully. Maybe you've been sitting at your desk too long. You just need to get up and move. Or maybe you've been lying down and you feel stagnant. If you've ever just been lying for a long time and your body just feels de-energized, and you get up and do a big stretch or a big movement, that starts to liberate energy. So that's the purpose behind it, but just bringing your awareness into your body as you do this. So that's the idea behind it, just to integrate it into your life wherever you feel it's appropriate to cultivate more mindfulness, more body awareness, more energy, more calmness and stillness, whatever you're trying to take away from that experience, because these poses and these movements can be done either energetically or from a more calming perspective. So just to take away whatever is appropriate for you at the time. So lastly, if you want to have a yoga mat, that's fine, but you don't need it. You can do these poses wherever it's comfortable. Once again, that's the magic word. What's comfortable for your body? If it doesn't feel right, please don't do it. Listen to what your body's telling you. Tune into that feedback mechanism. Listen, tune in, be present, and just enjoy the experience. So this is just kind of an overview and intro so you have an intellectual understanding of what to expect as we go into these movements. From here, we're just going to go into the 15-minute lessons so you can have a different experience with different movements that you can integrate into your own mind-body wellness program. So thank you very much for watching. Stick with me, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Namaste.